Hello, I'm Bailey Leasure, and this is the Leisure Sports Podcast. I'm not going to talk about the Super Bowl in this video as it is Super Bowl week. I'm going to do my analysis and prediction in another video, which you will see hopefully tomorrow. But I'm going to talk about other sports news. There was a lot of sports news that have happened since my last podcast, and I'm going to kick it off with one of the big trades that happened between the NFL and the NBA. But there were two separate trades from both of those leagues. Alex Smith, it had been rumored that looked like the Chiefs were going to move on from him in favor of their high draft pick, that first round draft pick they had last year for Patrick Mahomes, and they did that. Alex Smith, even though this trade will not be official until the new league year starts in March, he was traded to the Washington Redskins for a third round pick and quarterback Kendall Fuller. Alex Smith immediately, the Redskins gave him a 4-year extension for $94 million for 70, including 71 of that being guaranteed. A lot for Alex Smith. Alex Smith had a great year. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback. You know, that start that the Chiefs had was very impressive. But, I don't really see this move. I mean, first of all, that means Kirk Cousins, they're not paying him, obviously, and they're moving on from him. And Kirk Cousins will now be one of the most sought out quarterbacks in the free agency. And there's a lot of quarterback options for this upcoming offseason, not only just the draft, but in the free agency as well. I mean, you have Kirk Cousins. All the Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks are available. Nick Foles, that's a possibility, whatever he does, especially if he has a huge game. Even if he loses against the Eagle or against the Patriots, if he has an impressive game like he did in the NFC Championship game, yeah, I don't see him, because here's the thing. Carson Wentz was having an unbelievable year, and he's the future. He's the franchise quarterback. I mean, Foles was once considered the franchise quarterback until Chip Kelly traded him. But that Carson Wentz is going to be the starting quarterback. Next year. There's no question about that. There's not a quarterback controversy. Even if he were to do well and win the Super Bowl for the Eagles, it still wouldn't change anything. So that's just a factor right there. So, but we'll see what happens there. But Alex Smith, my thoughts on it. I don't really see it as a downgrade, but I don't see it as an upgrade for the Redskins. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a couple years younger, but I think their tier of quarterbacks, are about the same. Alex Smith. The interesting thing is that while the NFC East was real in, the AFC West, the divisions these two quarterbacks played in last year were weak. I really see those divisions going up next year. I think the Cowboys even though they haven't really been consistent, I think, getting Ezekiel Elliott for 16 games, we'll see what happens, what they do on the offensive side, with the whole Des Bryant thing and stuff like that. But, Dak Prescott's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And then you have, the Eagles with Carson Wentz. He's coming back. And you got the Giants, and we'll see what happens there with what direction they want to go in at quarterback. But there's there's going to be a lot of questions there. But I think the NFC East is going to be a lot more competitive next year. So it's going to be a little bit difficult, and I think now that they've gotten their quarterback. I also think that the Chiefs are just, the Chiefs had more offensive weapons. I mean, you had Kareem Hunt, you had Tyreek Hill, you had Travis Kelce. He's not going to have those weapons in with the Redskins. So we'll see how he adjusts to that. But that's that, and that was one of the big. It's rare during the Super Bowl week you see news come out of a big, transaction like this during the Super Bowl week that's not involving the two teams left in the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to flip flop here. So there was another big trade. There was a big trade in the NBA. Blake Griffin, who I believe in the 2017 offseason signed a 7-year, $100-something million deal, was traded to the Detroit Pistons. and has proven that sports is a business, and even if you have a guaranteed contract, you're very expendable. And that's what happened. He was he was traded to the Detroit Pistons for a package of players that the Pistons gave the Clippers, including I think Avery Bradley. So the Pistons trying to make a playoff run. So that was a huge trade, and that shocked me. Like it shocked a lot of the rest of the league. But it's a business in the NBA as it is in the NFL and other sports. So I'm not shocked, or excuse me, I am shocked by this, but it's a business, like I've said before. So, meanwhile, in the NBA, there were a couple big stories that happened last night. Kevin Love, it's just been disaster, or just a train wreck right now, just going down a bad spiral for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kevin Love broke one of his hands against the Pistons last night. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So just for the Cavs, considering this is possibly LeBron, actually possibly, there's more than likely this is LeBron James' last year as a Cleveland Cavalier before he goes off, probably to one of those LA teams, whether it's the Lakers or even possibly the Clippers, not that they moved the salary for Blake Griffin. I just, they're just not showing that they can make another run at getting to the NBA championship game. Especially what the Celtics are doing and other teams are doing. The East I still think is kind of weak, but they got to pick it up right before the playoffs starts. So I still think they'll be one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference, but them being the first seed is a long shot. So we'll see what happens going forward. James Harden, who's one of the best NBA players, recorded history last night as he recorded the first 60-point triple-double in NBA history. So it was incredible what he did. So congrats to him. Moving on to, it's been a slow off season for baseball, and it looks like a lot of the top free agents that are remaining, they might not sign until the week prior to spring training starting. Guys like JD Martinez and Eric Hosmer and Jake Arrieta, you know, but there really hasn't been that much baseball news lately, and hopefully the pace picks up. It's really been a slow off season for Major League Baseball, but for Arizona sports, the Diamondbacks, who would, kind of one of the holes that they had in this off season, they still have some things to address, but they were able to address the catcher position as they signed Alex Avila, who played for the Chicago Cubs and the Detroit Tigers last season. Had one of his best years, hitting 14 home runs, 60-something RBIs. I think he had 260 hitting average, 264. So he signed a 2-year deal for, I believe it is $8.25 million. So, congrats to him. I think it's an offensive upgrade. I'm surprised the Diamondbacks, because there have been a lot of rumors what they were going to do with the catcher position. A lot of people, they were going after or looking at JT Realmuto from the Marlins, as the Marlins have been selling off basically their entire team. Just basically cleaning the slate that Jeter's been doing in the Miami organization. But they were looking at him. I'm surprised the Diamondbacks didn't make a run or weren't looking at Jonathan Lucroy, who's still a free agent. But I think it's an upgrade offensively. But I don't, I'm surprised they didn't even think about re-signing Chris Iannetta, who's decent defensively. I mean, Mathis was the better defensive player, for as far as pitch frame is concerned. But Chris Iannetta, that second half, he really brought a lot of power to that position, and he was really big, especially when Jeff Mathis went down with that broken hand. He was really big for the Diamondbacks for that second half. So we'll see what Avila does, and to know Alex Avila and JD Martinez, they were teammates in Detroit, and I guess they were really good friends too. I'm just looking into it, but maybe it's Martinez who, it's every day it seems like that he doesn't get signed, his value continues to go down in the free agency market. Maybe he might not even get a 5-year deal. Maybe the Diamondbacks somehow have a shot at bringing him back on like a 1-year deal or something. But it's a long shot, and I still see him getting like a 5-year, $100 million deal at least somewhere. Maybe probably possibly the Red Sox. But we'll see what happens there. So moving on to this is the only piece of NHL news I'm going to talk about. This was a noteworthy thing. Mike Fisher, who had been on the the Nashville Predators. He retired at the end of the Stanley Cup Finals last season. He is coming out of retirement and going to be rejoining the Nashville Predators. So that's a big thing for the Predators. Is they're trying to make another run at the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's big for them. He was it's one of the most recognizable players that was on the Predators last year. So it's a big move from him. I believe there is reports going out that this is he's only coming back for this part of the season. So we'll see what happens there. But he's coming back, so that's a noteworthy thing. So the Arizona Cardinals, it took them a while to find a coach, but last week they hired former Carolina Panther defensive coordinator Steve Wilks as the head coach. I think it's a good move. It was announced that the former linebackers coach from the Panthers, Al Holcomb, if I'm saying that right, is going to be his defensive coordinator, and former Chargers coach Mike McCoy is going to be hired as the offensive coordinator. So I think McCoy hiring as an offensive coordinator is interesting. I mean, a lot of people, he was the offensive coordinator with the Denver Broncos last year, and they were not great. But then again, who they have at the quarterback position was really a question mark. And now that the Cardinals have found their coaches, I think the two biggest questions for the Cardinals coming up is Larry Fitzgerald going to come back, and who's going to be the quarterback? Will the Cardinals go after a quarterback in the free agency market? Will they, especially with the Kirk Cousins thing, if a team like Denver, if teams that are ahead of the Cardinals, because I think the Cardinals are like 15th or so in the first round as far as their draft pick is concerned. If teams ahead of them that are looking for quarterbacks, your Cleveland Browns, your Denver Broncos, they sign quarterbacks. They might, they might be able, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, those teams won't be going after quarterbacks. So maybe some of those big, quarterbacks in the draft class, like Baker Mayfield or Sam Rosen or some of those other, I think I'm saying that right. They go after, they're able to go after some of those big quarterbacks in the draft. I personally think the Cardinals should do both, but we'll see what happens there. If the Cardinals do get a quarterback and decide not to draft, I think the one area they have to look at, or the two areas they have to look at, are the offensive line and getting the receiver position, because even if Larry Fitzgerald comes back, he's a veteran. You need your next future wide receiver, and the receiver position just seems really thin for the Cardinals. Feels like Larry Fitzgerald's the only guy that's good, but they could also upgrade it in the free agency as well. So we'll see what happens there. My final piece of news, this was one of the big sports stories last week, and I really want to talk about this. So the XFL, if some of you don't know what it was, back in 2001, the owner and chairman of the WWE, the World Wrestling Entertainment, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena, all those people, Vince McMahon, came up with a football league. It was like a partnership between Vince McMahon and former NBC executive or president, or one of the guys who work in the NBC, Dick Ebersol. They did a partnership. Vince created the league, but it was broadcasted on NBC. It was the XFL, which was, it only lasted 1 year. It was basically guys that couldn't make it to the NFL, guys who couldn't, there weren't many big stars. It was very gimmicky. It was known for its hard hitting and, putting a lot of emphasis on cheerleaders, and, known for players having nicknames at the back of the jersey. One of the most noteworthy players, probably when you think of the XFL, you think of He Hate Me, Rod Smart, who would go on to play in the NFL. Tommy Maddox, who was the quarterback for the Steelers. He was, that's where he started. It was very gimmicky. The football wasn't that great. Injuries were they did, instead of just doing a simple coin toss for who gets the ball first, they did a 50-yard scramble or whatever it was. It was really weird and gimmicky. Well, it looks like Vince McMahon is going to try this again. It's going to be relaunching in 2020. Some of the rules that Vince has implied, it's going to be football. It's not going to be they're not going to implement wrestling and football like they did before. it's not going to be as gimmicky. It's going to be more serious, which is funny because, they were kind of anti-NFL, so it seems like they're trying to be, they're trying to be more like a football league this time around. It's going to be, from what I heard, it's not going to have political statements. So even though a lot of people think they are being political by requiring players to stand up for the national anthem. That's a whole other discussion. Players who have criminal backgrounds, even DUIs, might get disqualified. Controversial. It seems like they're trying to steer away from the controversy that the NFL's kind of had. The whole national anthem protest controversy. Players' criminal backgrounds and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, and I'm not necessarily saying this is going to tank like it did before. In some aspects it is a good. I think the NFL or football needs this. They need kind of like a minor league system or kind of a secondary professional football league in the NFL because a lot of guys won't not get drafted. I think it's big, and especially it's big if Vince McMahon. You're going to need, like in WWE, you're going to need your big names. And I think it's critical, and like Mansell, even though he's a controversial figure, and he's not, he's had trouble off the field. I wouldn't necessarily, cast him away from the XFL. I think you need some stars. You need guys that can't make it or not in the NFL anymore. Guys like Tim Tebow and RG3 and Johnny Manziel and all these other guys. Even though it would be controversial, it's certainly, you're all about ratings, Vince. Look at Colin Kaepernick. It's not. I mean, he's not going to be kneeling again. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback personally, but I think he could be decent in the XFL. I think it could be great, and also it could maybe you could use it to, like, instead of like it's like it's a step between college football and the NFL. And it's big for guys who don't get drafted and also guys who don't want to deal with the controversies and the corruption that you've seen in the NCAA. I think it could be successful. Maybe the NFL could look at it and do some things differently. I think one of the biggest things that you need to establish and you have to improve on from the last time you did this, Vince, is improve what's happening on the field. Improve your quality of football. I think for one thing, look at the NFL. Look at all the stuff that's gone on controversially with officiating, such as the catch rule, the first down index card controversy we saw this year. I think you have to look at that and, okay, this is, you have to look at that, what the NFL's not doing right now, while not bashing them at the same time, the NFL, but you also have to look at what you did wrong with the XFL and do it right. I think if they're able to get, a season or two, I see this going on at least 2 seasons longer than the original XFL did. So I think overall, I think it everybody's expecting it to bomb like it did before. I think that's a high possibility, but I think, it's not going to make the same mistakes that it did, prior, in its first incarnation. But we'll see what happens there. So that's it for my podcast this week. Thanks everybody for watching. Comment on what I've talked about. What do you think about the XFL coming back? Do you think it will be successful this time around? What do you think about the Alex Smith trade? What do you think about Blake Griffin? How the Cavs going to get out of it? What do you think about the Cardinals hiring Steve Wilkes? So leave the comments in the comment section below. Click like if you like the content on my channel. Please subscribe and tune in hopefully tomorrow. As I will be doing my Super Bowl 52 prediction. This will be my third Super Bowl overall. Last year's Super Bowl prediction, even though I didn't expect it to be like that, my prediction was very close from a point standpoint, and I did get the right team correct this time. So that was really big. So thanks everybody for watching, and stay tuned for my Super Bowl prediction coming up. So goodbye.